hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see my screen? All right. Okay. So first of all, I will conduct a very short revision with you first. Then after that, I will brief about your feedback about your midterm and your assignment. Then after that, at the end of the lecture, I will give a very short regarding your FA. Okay, briefing about your FA. So for this course, I have actually delivered all these course content. So basically at the beginning, I start to deliver about the economic context, focus on micro and macroeconomics. After that, investment in property development. We have actually learned a few types of the investment. And after that, we zoom into property investment. Then after that, you have learned how to conduct a proper market research, the 7-step market research. So you have demonstrate the skill when you do the assignment. So moving forward will be a little bit of the calculation. You actually learn how to prepare your development appraisal in profit method and also in residue method. Then we have learned about funding, how developer can get the funding, where are the sources, for what purpose, in what other way. So, and then at the end, we actually learn about the financial structure and arrangement between the funder and also the developer. Then we actually learn about how to integrate sustainability. Why is it so important to integrate sustainability into property development? How developer can play a role in achieving the sustainability to give an impression that they are not only profit seeking, but at the same time, they also concerned about social equality and also the environmental issue. Then at this chapter, we learn about a few basic valuation method. Okay, a few only. I didn't expose too much to you, but at least you have a idea what are the valuation method that you can use and how to conduct the valuation method. It's not very comprehensive because you all are not valuer, you all are a QS, okay, cost planner. So in this chapter you only learn a few basic valuation method but not so in detail. And we ended the course with the subject of due diligence, how to conduct the due diligence in property development. So at the very beginning, during the microeconomic topic, so at the right beginning, we have learned that economic is about scarcity, choices, and incentive. So this is a basic about the economic, what are they study. So how can we integrate all these into the property investment and the property development is property investor, they are facing scarcity. Their money, their capital is not has a limitation. So when they are choosing the investment, we have a lot of investment type. When they are facing the limitation, they need to make a choice. What are the investment they had to choose? So what are the incentives driven behind to driving them to make a choice, to make a rational choice is, of course, is the rate of return, is the return that govern the investment choice. So that is a property investor. Then come into the property developer. So as a developer, their resources, land, money, human resources, everything is limited. So they are facing scarcity also. So when they are facing the limitation, they also need to make a choice which project they need to kickstart, which project they need to develop, whether residential, whether commercial, whether mixed development. So they need to make a choice which project is the most profitable. So that is an incentive behind driving the property developer to make a choice. So that is a reason why at the beginning I introduced you about the economic concept, the scarcity, choices, and incentive. Why you need to understand these fundamental? Because when people facing limitation, they need to make a rational choice. So how to make a rational choice is they will look at the development appraiser that you have actually learned to determine the profit margin, to check the rate of return, whether it's within their target or not. Then from that, it acts as a decision tool to help the client to make the decision whether they want to proceed or not proceed. So that is the fundamental you need to understand. Then zoom into the second part is about the property market and the price determination. So at this sub-chapter, you actually understand that property is very unique, heterogeneous. There are no same property, and I actually introduce to you property carries certain of characteristic. So this one you can refer back to the lecture. Then after that, we learn about the demand and supply and the interactions at equilibrium. Then for elasticity of supply, we actually learn that when supply is inelastic or elastic, the elasticity of supply will affect the opportunity cost, or sometimes we call transfer earning, and also the economic rent. So the elasticity, the slope of the supply will affect the portion of the economic rental and also the opportunity cost. So at the same time, in city center, in suburban, the elasticity of supply also different. So because of this different, it affects the price change and also the quantity change. So in city center, you notice that the price change faster than the quantity. In suburban, the quantity change faster than the price. So that is what we have learned in the elasticity of supply. Then in location and land use, we know that land has one characteristic which is immobile. Immobile meaning to say that the land is fixed. It cannot be moved. So the land is forever be there. So the location will affect the land use. The further away from city center, transportation cost is very high, but then the land cost is cheap. Nearer to city center, transportation cost is cheap, but then the land cost is very high. So that is a fundamental of economic trade-off. You need to make a choice. If you choose the location at city center, you need to pay higher land costs. If you want to give up, you can move away from city center. So you can choose your business at suburban. Then you can pay lower land costs, but you bear higher transportation costs. So that is an economic principle. You cannot have two things at the same time. You need to choose one thing, then the other thing that you give up is what we say opportunity cost. But then we all also learn that city center is not always the best location. The best location, how we define the best location is actually, it depends on the profit, whether they can earn more profit or less profit at that location. So it does not mean that city center is always the best location. The best location of a business will depend where the profit is greatest. So because of this theory, you can see that retail, they will located at city center, but for industrial, for warehouse, they will located at suburban. Both, although located at different location, but they still can earn profit. So that's why we cannot say that the best location is always a city center. And don't forget, I also introduced to you decentralization. Because of the saturation in city center, no more land already for development, and the city center actually have a lot of problems such as traffic congestions. That's the reason why most of the developer now move toward to decentralization and also suburban. And after that, we have learned about types and density of development. Remember that land has scarcity value, meaning to say that because it's very expensive, you need to build higher to maximize the profit. You need to employ sufficient capital, which means you need to build higher, employ more floor space in order to maximize the surplus profit so that sufficient enough to pay the land cost. So that is the reason why in city center, you use the land more intensive. In suburban, you use it more extensive. Okay. And last but not least, we actually learn about the timing of redevelopment. Land is very expensive. The land value will always appreciate when the times goes along, but the building value will depreciate. The depreciation of building even faster if you didn't maintain the building. And site value will increase faster when there is a infrastructure improvement. So when the land value, or we say site value, more than the building value, that is the best timing for redevelopment. And at the end of the chapter, we also learned that there are a few factors that affect the redevelopment process, which means that will slow down the development process. So this sum up what we have learned at microeconomics. Then when we zoom into the next chapter, macroeconomics. So at macroeconomic, I actually introduced to you there are a few major indicators to actually measure the performance of our country. So such as GDP, employment rate, interest rate, money supply, OPR, SRR, and so on. So these are some of the indicators that very important to govern the performance of economics, our country, whether healthy or not healthy. So all these major indicators actually very related to property development. So in the second subchapter, we actually learn that the real economic, meaning to say that the economic performance, the economic condition. Then the second cycle, the second market is about the property market. And also last one is the financial market, which means from the financial institution. So in this subchapter, we actually learn how these three cycles, these three markets interact together. So as a conclusion, you should know that property market, they does not operate in solo. They actually affected by macroeconomic, whether the GDP very high, whether the GDP very low, or whether the government introduce any new policy. All these policy definitely will affect the property market. Similarly, come from financial market, whether the bank or the Bank Negara Malaysia decrease the OPR. Subsequently, it will affect the interest rate because people buy property, people rent property, they actually need financing from the bank. So that is sum up what we have learned at this subchapter. And lastly, I introduced to you the short-term cycle, medium and long-term cycle. So all these cycles actually serve as an indication, past information, or we say historical information All these are very important data, very important information that will help the developer in planning. So that is your midterm test question number 1. So if you can relate what you have learned at macroeconomic, okay, from what the information, from what the data you can get, how it helped the developer in planning, in their development, then that will be your best answer in your question number 1 for your midterm test. So here, as I mentioned, all these property information, all these data actually help the developer in planning, because we cannot forecast future very accurately. We need to rely on the past information or the current information to make some prediction. So in this last sub-content, we also learned that there are a few reasons makes the property cycle very difficult to make prediction. Okay, so that is somewhat what we have learned at macroeconomics. Then in the chapter number 3, we have learned about investment. So at the beginning, I introduced to you there are a few investments such as share, bond, apart made very heavily I talk about share and also bond, but I also introduce to you you can actually invest in FD, you can actually invest in gold or currency and so on. So there are a few types of the investment other than the property investment. So at this chapter, we also learn to compare, okay, a few investment, like I mentioned just now, compare their risk, compare their return, compare their initial capital, and also and other characteristic. Then after that, we zoom into property investment. Okay, so we have a few types of the investment. You can invest as owner, or you can invest as investor, or you also can invest as a developer. So you can see that there are a few ways that you can actually put yourself in the property investment. Then for the classification of the investment, you know that it can be divided into direct or indirect. So all this is very important. How you need to understand how you want to differentiate between direct and indirect. So this is what I have tested you in your midterm question number 2. So basically, I can see that most of you understand the concept, but then the problem is you do not know. I actually figure out that you do not know how to express the answer in a good way. Okay, so that one I will talk to you later lah on the midterm feedback. So on the classification of the investment, you know it divided into direct and indirect. So from this, you must know the differences, the strength and the weaknesses. In the tutorial, we also have a few questions to discuss together. What are the benefits? What are the weaknesses if you invest directly and also indirectly? So remember that for from this chapter, you must always talk from the investor perspective. Okay, to talk about their perspective. So for investor, their aim is to what? Investment, to maximize the profit, to maximize their return. So that is their aim. All right. Then moving forward is about the market research. So at the beginning, I actually give a brief introduction about the marketing, and then I zoom into why we need to conduct market research, what is the benefit, how it actually assists the client in planning. So for your question, the midterm answer, okay, midterm answer question 1, some of you actually discuss the market research. I will say the answer can be accepted, just that the way you write the answer is wrong. The way you write the answer is like you explain the step by step. That is not a good way. The best way is you actually detail out, okay, step 1, what are the information that you can get, how it helped the developer in planning, then your answer will be very, very good. Although I say macroeconomic is the best answer, but as I mentioned several times to you all, open-ended question, there is no right or wrong answer, only good or bad answer. If you talk about the market research, I can accept the answer. Just that you need to twist the way that you answer the question. You have actually need to mention, in the step 1, property productivity analysis. In this step 1, what are the information you can get? Plot ratio, density control. So all this information, how it helped the developer in their planning. Why is it important for them to know the plot ratio and also the density control? That's why some of you actually spell out, you actually write the step by step how to conduct the research. So that's why you may score very low for if you answer like this way. That is not a perfect way. So that's why you have to twist a bit your answer to relate back to the question. Okay, so in this chapter, basically you have learned how to conduct the 7-step market research, from first one to determine the plot ratio, the density. Then after that, market delineation, you have to determine the radius, the boundary of your research to find out what are the externality that will affect your proposed property development. Then you forecast the demand, forecast the supply. Then in this step, you actually compare the demand and supply together to determine whether it's equilibrium or whether it's oversupply or undersupply. And then at this step, you forecast the subject capture, calculate the market share, and also briefly spell out the uniqueness, the attractiveness of your property. And last but not least, you've learned about the financial modeling. How do you conduct the development budget, the calculation? So all these, I have tested you at the assignment. So basically, you know how to conduct the market research. So bear in mind that next semester, if you are taking integrated project, you also need to conduct a 7-step market research again. So this one is the knowledge that we'll bring forward to the subject integrated project. And then next one, this will be your core skill, the core expertise for this subject. If you are intended, let's say after some time, if you wish to join the developer firm, this knowledge that will be very important and very useful for you. So in this chapter, we have learned how to prepare the development budget by using the profit method to determine the rate of return. Remember that you can calculate the profit, the rate of return in a few ways, mainly profit on cost or profit on revenue. Both also can be accepted. Then after that, your assignment, I tested you how to prepare the appraisal by using the residual method to determine the land cost that can be offered to the landowner. So that is a difference between profit method and residual method. And at the end of the chapter, I also introduce to you cash flow method actually is better than the profit method and the residual method, because cash flow method allows you to see the spread of the cash throughout the development period, like first month, what are the costs incurred, second month, third month, and fourth month. So by doing the cash flow method, it actually gives you a better overview how you spend your money. So this I already tested you in your assignment. So you all basically, I would say, quite okay, but there are a few mistakes that later on I will highlight. Okay, so this knowledge development appraiser will carry forward to the subject integrated project as well. For your integrated project, at the beginning, your first task is to prepare the budget. So that is why this subject is so important, that you learn already, you had to integrate, you had to apply again at the subject integrated project. Then after that, I introduce about the development risk. So for a project, definitely there are many type of the risks. So I introduce to you systematic risk. Systematic risk, which means the risk that will affect all types of the property. Okay, unsystematic risk we call project specific risk, which means that something happen which will affect the project only. It's not all property. But systematic risk is like, let's say if government change the policy, change the tax, okay, changes in terms of political, social, or economic context, then it will affect all types of the property. But unsystematic risk is actually is limit to your own project only. Okay. Then after that, we have learned how to use the Excel to conduct the non-probabilistic analysis, such as break-even, um, sensitivity analysis, univariate, bivariate, and scenario modeling. And we also learned about how to conduct the probabilistic analysis, which is the certainty equivalent. So this one, we have one tutorial. You all have learned how to prepare, how to monitor, how to perform the risk analysis. And also your assignment, you also learn how to do that. Then at the end of the chapter, we know that some of the variables are very sensitive. So that's why you need to know how to manage the risk, how to reduce and minimize the risk. So in this subchapter, we have learned a few ways how can we reduce the risk. Okay. Then come to the development funding. Okay. At the beginning of the chapter, you understand that who are the borrower of development finance? Is the developer. So you don't confuse yourself about borrower and the funder. The borrower here refer to developer. So developer can be divided into merchant developer and also investor developer. Their aim and their objective are different. Their characteristics are different. So because of this difference, they need to raise short-term or long-term finance. So this is what we have learned at this subchapter. And then moving forward is about type of the development finance. Developer can issue debt, loan, equity, example, share, to raise fund. So in this chapter, as I mentioned several times already, you must always talk from the developer company perspective. Company issue debt, issue equity and share to investor, to funder. Their purpose is to raise fund, to get their working capital, to kickstart their project. So that is their purpose. It's very different from the investment debt chapter. So from this chapter, think about whenever you write the answer, you must always start from the developer mind. Okay? So they issue debt, issue equity to raise the fund. Then in terms of the sources, how can they raise their finance? It can be through corporate finance, project finance. So corporate and project finance is actually also can raise debt and equity finance. This one I have discussed very clear with you at tutorial number 5. Okay, so feel free to refer. Then after that, we all know that why we say EPF, life insurance, they are long-term funder, and why general insurance, they are short-term funder. So at this subchapter, I introduce to you who are the funder who are interested in property development. And last but not least, we have learned 6 types of the financial structure. Sometimes we call financial arrangement. So the financial arrangement between the developer and also the funder. So this sum up what we have learned at development funding. Then in the chapter number 8, basically is about sustainability. So at the right beginning, I briefly explain what does it mean by sustainability and also the sustainable development. So don't forget, sustainable development is actually integrate economic, social, and also the economic aspect. And don't forget about the 17 SDG goal. So after that, for the second one, I actually briefly go through with you how can we integrate sustainability throughout the property development stages, from that piece of land to the funding, to the planning, to the design and the construction stage, and lastly, during the reporting stage. So these are some of the ways that the developer can actually inject the sustainability into their project. Okay. And chapter number 9, as I mentioned just now, I actually exposed to you some of the basic development valuation method. So in this chapter, we have learned comparison method, which means that like for like comparison, you have to compare apple to apple. But due to the fact that there are no two same property, so sometimes you need to make adjustments based on the location, based on the time, and based on the size effect. That is what we have learned at comparison method. And then for profit and receipt or expenditure method is about, sometimes we say profit or income method. So this method is very important for those property that have business like petrol station, casino, hotel. When you want to take over their business, you can actually prepare the profit method. Residual method is actually what we have learned at development appraisal. So in this chapter, I didn't introduce again. But the residual method here meaning to say that the residual method at the development appraisal. Okay. And then cost method is about for those property that do not generate any income, and then they do not have capital value and the rental value, and they are not traded in the market. So because of this specialized property, you have to use the cost method to divide the property into land value and also the building value. And the building value you should minus depreciation. So that is a cost method. And last but not least, we learn about investment method. Basically, we use the formula U equals to the annual rental divided by the capital value. So at the end of this investment method, we also learn about the discounted cash flow. So basically, for this chapter, you must be familiar with the method, how to calculate, and all these methods, they are applied for different type of the property. So you must know what property they should use what method, how to calculate the application. All right. And come to the end, actually the last chapter I introduced to you is about the due diligence. So due diligence is actually meaning to say that no matter the developer or the investor, they have to very cautious, they have to very careful. Okay, they need to conduct the due diligence before they start to invest, before they start anything, whether they want to kickstart any project. That is the definition of due diligence, to take a reasonable step before committed to anything. Okay, and then we also talk about due diligence of property development. So basically, at this subchapter, we talk about what are the important, why we need to conduct the due diligence in property development. And last but not least, I introduce to you the simple process. How can we conduct the due diligence process in property development? So that sum up what we have learned from day 1 until today. So if you need further references, I would suggest you a few ebook. So say for example, this one I already mentioned to you, this ebook will be quite useful if you don't understand about micro, macro, and funding. So you can refer to this book. Okay, so the ebook I already shared with you. You can click the link, then you can download the ebook for free. And then these two property development also you can refer. Due diligence for this book is mainly related to the due diligence chapter. You also can refer. And for the appraiser, property appraiser, risk funding, okay, for that few chapter, you can refer to these two books. So generally, they are the same, just that this one is the second edition, this one is the third edition. But basically, the content are quite similar lah. And for property valuation, which means that the calculation part, if you interested to know more, I see some of you are actually quite interested lah. Okay, you keep asking me a lot of questions about the investment method. Feel free to refer to this book. But as I say to you, for that chapter, I just introduced a few methods to you because you are not valuer, you are cost planner. But at least you know that there are some of the method that you can use it to calculate for certain type of the property. Okay, so feel free to refer to these two books. This one is the first edition, this one is the second edition. Okay, and on and off, I already mentioned that I provide a lot of property news and the article to help you to understand the cost better. Feel free to read it. It might be very useful to gain your extra knowledge. Okay? So that's all for the revision part. Do you have any question to ask me before I proceed to the midterm explanation? If you have question, you may post to the meeting chat. Later lah, ha? Okay, Pauline? Okay. Any question regarding the whole course? Okay. What is the most important chapter? Okay, I save the question later lah. So far, that is what we have learned from day 1 until today. So now I want to talk about your midterm. Okay, so your midterm, I have emailed to you. Sorry to say that I have to email to your personal email, because that function cannot use Utah email. So I got no choice. I have to email to your personal email. So try to check your personal email. And some of you say cannot find at inbox, but they can find at junk and also the spam mail. So you try to go to the junk or spam mail to check the email from me. Okay, so I have actually sent to you. You can actually view your marks, view some of the comment, and view some of the message that I wrote to you. Okay, some of the messages are quite important. Please take note. So if any one of you didn't get your midterm answer script with the comment and the marks, please feel free to PM me lah. Okay. All right. Before I go to the question one by one, some of the general comment that I hope all of you please take note. I already mentioned that you have to fill in all the detail at page 1, page 2, insert your e-signature. But still got a few students didn't fill in. Even the name also didn't fill in. You didn't fill in ID, never mind. But why you didn't fill in your own name? Then the page 2 also you leave it blank. Or maybe you fill in already, you didn't insert your e-signature. Sometimes I seriously don't know what happened to you lah. Just like Pauline say, I want to die already if I see this kind of thing. So please, when you get the answer script, fill in all the detail. Your big name, I think your final assessment, you no need fill in ID. You need to fill in your what? That is called what? Index number. Okay, your name, index number, page 2, please fill in. Please insert your e-signature. If later on FA if any one of you make this mistake again I deduct your mark. So listen carefully please fill in all the detail. If you didn't fill in maybe I need to deduct your mark already. Okay, that is the first message I want to say. Second message this one also very important. Some of you, if you receive the message on your midterm in your answer script, if I wrote about the word limit, then you have to be careful already. Some of you didn't exceed the word limit. Okay, almost only I give you warning. Some of you actually already exceed the word limit. But for midterm, I close one eye, I didn't deduct your mark. I still read your answer until the end. Actually, this is not fair to other students because I already mentioned the word limit is 2,500 for two questions. If you exceed the word limit, think about your friend. Your friend actually write within the word limit, but you yourself, you write until 3,500. Do you think it's fair for other students? So for midterm, I close one eye, I still mark your answer. But for final assessment, there is no marking by right? There is no marking beyond the word limit. Let's say if you write 3,000, I just read until 2,500. Then your question 2 will become incomplete answer because it starts halfway it's incomplete. So because of incomplete, I had to deduct your marks. So if you receive my message, even if you didn't receive my message, you also take note word limit for final assessment also the same, 2,500 for two questions. No marking beyond the word limit. Incomplete answer for final assessment, I will deduct your mark. For midterm, I didn't deduct but I will feel that it's not very fair to other students because of you break the rules. So please do not repeat in the final assessment. Okay. And number 3 is always seek for clarification during the assessment period, especially at the beginning. So this one is very important. If you read the question, if you don't understand, or if you have certain doubt, feel free to clarify with me at the beginning. Don't do halfway already, then you feel that like go to Holland, soon go to Holland, then only you want to clarify. That will be too late already. So always clarify at the right beginning. And then number 4, number 5, I already mentioned 1,000 times. Break down your answer into a few paragraphs. Okay, even you write love letter to your lover, you also break down into a few paragraphs So that's why please break down your answer into a few paragraphs. Easier for me to see because I got 190 students. It's very difficult for me to read. Okay, last one, I want to remind you again. Some of the table, okay, not some of the table. If you produce your answer in table, that table no marks. So please do not waste your effort. Your assessment is time-based. So please make sure don't waste your time to produce the table. The table no marks one. Focus on the writing part and the elaboration. Okay? All right. Question 1. Okay, question 1 asking data are becoming the new raw material of business. Based on this statement, advise, can you see the word advise? Property developer by illustrating the keyword important of using data in planning, the keyword planning for a new development project. You are required to provide, this one also keyword, relevant example of using data in property planning and development. So question asking about the importance of using the data. You have to spell out the important and you have to make some suggestions. Before I go through the good answer, I go through the bad answer first. Okay, some of the answer come from you The first I encounter is some of you actually wrote, it's very difficult to predict the property cycle because of the reason. The question actually not asking you why is it difficult to predict. You can say difficult predict, but then you can actually provide how to solve the problem. Let's say lack of data is one of the difficulty to predict during the planning. Then you can actually make suggestions how to actually overcome the limitation so that the developer can actually predict more accurately in their planning. So as I say, you have to twist the way you write. You don't you have to twist the way you write, tally back to the question, the question asking important. So I would suggest when you write your answer, right, you read the question at least 5 times first. Before you read 5 times, you think 5 times before you start to write. Okay? Then the second answer I encounter is about you illustrate the relationship between the economic context, property market, and also the financial market, the three sectors that I mentioned just now. Then you start to talk the story from the day one until the end. The question not asking about the relationship. You can highlight, I say highlight, you can highlight the relationship in one paragraph. Then after that, you have to give suggestion how to overcome. Okay, is the question not asking the detailed relationship between these three. So if your question write about these three together from A until Z, then that one is actually wrong lah. Okay, it's not to say wrong lah, it's actually not a good answer. Okay. Number three, some of you actually talk about the market research step. As I mentioned just now, actually this answer can accept. Just that if you telling me step 1 do what, step 2, step 3, 4, 5, 6 do what, then that one, the way of the writing is wrong already. As I say, you have to inform me step 1, what are the data you get? Why this data important? Why developer need to know this data? Then that one correct. Okay, so that's why number 3, the answer can accept. Just that twist the way you write. Always write relate back to the important, how it helped them to plan. Okay. Some of you, not many, a few, you sketch the microeconomic graph. I would say this answer actually quite not so right lah. Unless you can relate the microeconomic concept to the planning, then I can accept. But if you purely just sketch a graph, talk the graph movement without linking back to the important, then that one actually not so right. Okay. And number 1, this one very, very important. This one very, very important. If you receive the message on your answer script, then you have to be careful already. Do not over rely on the article provided. I remember I provide one article about the big data, how big data can help in property planning. But actually, right, the question didn't ask big data. The question asked data only. You can say a bit big data lah. But then some of you, right, you over rely on the article. You are actually doing summary of the article. You actually, sorry to say lah, you actually copying, not to say copy bulat-bulat, but then I can see you copy most of it. So that is not a good way. That is actually one form of the plagiarism. You copy that whole paragraph. So sorry, I didn't give any marks for you for this part. So please do not over rely on the article provided. You can read, you can get some of the idea, but best way to give your own opinion and example. You can give one example from the article, but then some of you, right, you just extract most of the content from that article. So that one will make your mark very low. So remember, please do not over rely on the article provided. That is not that is actually copying already. So try to avoid lah. So the best answer, as I mentioned, you have to explain what are the data, how the data useful in planning, why is it important to collect these data for planning. Give example. So the data here, right, can be in many form. Some of you actually some of the answer actually quite good. You actually know what are the data and you are able to give the example. Some more I can see that you are able to link to the practice. That one will be good answer, I would say. Okay, so what are the data? Like let's say government latest planning, latest policy, the taxes, new tax or cut tax, GDP, employment rate, interest rate, past economic cycle, consumer data, and their affordability, income level, their spending habit, their preference. So all these data are very important to the developer in their planning. Okay, so you can use this one as the example of the data. Inform why is it important to know housing buying preference. Why is it important to know their demand, their preference, their spending habit? Why is it important to know their income level, their affordability? Why? Because here important, you can help to make a decision based on the data rather than based on your own wish and decision. I can see some of you, you manage to write the important. Like let's say this one, right? I think I extract from one of the student. I forget lah, he or she lah, managed to write the important of the data. But then he or she does not know how to give the example. What are the example of the data can help to make decision, can help to target the market more precisely. These two sentences are very, very good. But then the student just fail to give example, fail to give elaboration, and fail to give link to the practice. So this one, try to take note. You have to give some example, like I mentioned here. Why is this data important? How it helps them in their planning? Think about it. If without this data, what are the consequences? So for this question, right, you can have many type of the answer. As long as when I read, I think that makes sense, acceptable, then your answer is considered okay. All right, so that is the question number 1. Question 2. Okay, question 2. Most of you understand, but I'm not so satisfied with the answer you give lah. Okay, the higher the risk, the more return you will receive from an investment. Based on this statement, outline your view by providing relevant example to a new investor who is interested to begin his or her investment. So for this kind of question, right, I would prefer you tell me whether you agree or disagree on this statement. So if you agree, then you have to justify why you agree, because risk and return is a trade-off. That is the economic concept, because you cannot have two things at the same time. So make a choice. If you opt for high return, that will be this one. If you opt for high return, then you have to give up the low risk. If you choose lower risk, okay, then you might need to give up the high return. So that is a fundamental of the economic concept. That is a thing that you need to advise the new investor. Okay, you have to teach them to understand the fundamental. Okay, no pain, no gain. If you agree lah, then after that you give example to illustrate the high risk, high return investment. Some of you quite good. You actually say, you didn't say disagree, but you actually provide some view stated that shouldn't just evaluate risk and return. I quite like the answer. If you receive the good then I am saying you you say that risk and return is very important. But then for a new investor, you should also evaluate other aspects. You cannot just think about risk and return only. You have to think about your affordability, liquidity, amount of management, initial investment and so on. Do you have the knowledge or not to invest in share? So when begin any investment, we shouldn't just think about risk and return. There are other aspects that worth for consideration. So that is the best advice for a new investor. So you can see, based on my answer, you tally back with your answer, you can see that your answer is far from my expectation. But then I just close one eye lah. If I open my eye, you all will fail already lah. Okay. So and another best answer I will give is about this one. If you're able to say diversification to spread the risk, then I will give a bonus mark lah. Okay. Best to advise the new investor to diversify the investment to spread the risk, and you can briefly talk about what are the benefits of diversification. Okay, so that will be my model answer if you write like this. Because the question say outline your view, okay? But then some of you, right? Some of you actually fall into number 6 lah. You all like explain the investment one by one separately. It's like no connection one. Like first one, you talk about share, property, bond, FD. Then at the end of the conclusion, you say high risk, high return. So that is not a good way. You shouldn't explain them one by one. You can explain them one by one, but at least you should connect, do a connection. Highlight some investment are actually very high risk, high return, whereas some are the low risk and stable return. So try to connect them rather than you explain one by one. And then number 5 also, majority lah. Majority very like to do that. I teach what lah, you give me back what. You write share lah, property lah, bond lah, FD lah, and go. Actually, right, for this question, you just need to choose 2 to 3 investment to elaborate. Sufficient enough. No need to explain all. You just need to select either 2 or 3, like share, FD, property. One must be high risk. Second one must be low risk to illustrate the risk and return. There is unnecessary to list out all. So that's why I don't understand the word limit 2,500. Why you can exceed? That is not necessary, you know. So don't waste your time to write so much. Okay. So please take note all the advice that I given. For your final assessment, the question will be similar to this type again. Okay. Question. My question, right, very simple only. One sentence, then your view. That's it. So as I always tell you all, no right or wrong, only good or bad. Okay, so try to remember this one and don't write too long. Don't exceed the word limit. Okay, so that is the midterm comment. So any question that you want to ask before I give you a short break? Any question want to ask about your midterm or any question before I give you a short break? Okay. All right. We will break for a few minutes. We come back at 10:10 lah. Okay, come back later at 10:10. Then I will give you the comment on assignment and later on your FA. All right. See you all later. All right. Welcome back. Okay. Um, Wei Yan, I would like to ask how to interpret the question to know how many examples are sufficient. Example, the midterm Q2 only need 2 to 3 examples. Yes, if you are talking about Q2, 2 to 3 examples are sufficient. Of course, the 2 to 3 example, you choose the one that you got many things to write lah. You don't choose like especially some of you, right? The goal one, you can only write a few sentences. So why you still want to include the goal? You can actually include share, property, then FD. So sometime when we mark, we didn't evaluate the how many point. We see the overall contents. Okay, you don't tell me I got this point, I got 5 points. Why my mark still low? We didn't see how many point you have. We see the overall. So later on, I will tell you my marking scheme. Okay, how I mark the answer, but basically it's similar to the midterm lah. We didn't mark based on how many point you have. We based on the overall content, the flow, the organize, your example, your elaboration, your integration, your quality of your answer. So actually, you don't need to give so many examples. But of course, if you say you are worried, you want to have security, then you can write many lah. As long as you don't exceed the word limit. If you are scared lah, but if you ask me how many point I want, I cannot answer you. Okay, because we see the overall. Okay. All right. Go back to the assignment. Okay, wait. I want to open one assignment. Okay. Assignment. All right. Basically, we go to the overall comment first. Okay. Some of you are detected one very bad habit. You want to avoid the word count. You actually convert the table into a figure. That is not very good practice. Please do not do that. Okay, 不要这样尖啊. Okay, so you want to avoid the word count, so you convert most of the table because your table got a lot of word ma. So you cut and paste your table in a figure so that it won't actually then the word count actually excluded the figure. Please do not do that. Okay, that is not a very good practice. And some figure are actually not clear. Some figure table actually not so clear. I would suggest that reproduce is a good way of presentation. This is what I have seen at the group. I can't forget the group. The highest mark I give should be group 24. I give 34 marks, 34 or 35 marks. So these are some of the things I have actually seen at this group. They actually reproduce some of the table to highlight the key important message only. Because your table, let's say you extract something figure or table from other sources, then the figure table, actually you want to show one line only ma. So for that group, right, they actually reproduce it to just highlight certain information. So that is a good way to reproduce the presentation to highlight the key information only, rather than you just cut and paste the whole thing, then you just highlight, oh, that one only, slang or how many, that's it. So sometimes I would say that reproduce will be a good thing to actually improve the quality. Some of the figure data or table, I noticed that there are no source or no year. So please take note lah. Even if you do your FYP, when you paste any table or figure, that is very important. You have to cite the sources lah. Okay, and some of you use chapter. I think because you use the template from the FYP, right? So please do not use chapter for professional report. this is not FYP. So do not use chapter. You can remove it, the chapter, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4 will be sufficient. But if you really want to use, you may use section, but don't use chapter. Please do not repeat this mistake at integrated project. Please, I don't want to see the integrated project later, the report, you use chapter. Please remember this one, or else you will get scolded by the lecturer, okay? Some of the picture, I would say that unnecessary, too many figure. Okay, the one I give higher marks, right? The group actually, if I'm not mistaken, actually they are below, the wording are below 15,000 only, very short only. Mainly because they didn't paste so many table and figure. Say for example, you see this figure. This figure, can you see this figure or not? I forget which group lah, but then not good to say which group. The group actually shows this picture. Great, we have got you cover to show that unify cover in your project. So you all think about it. Do you think this figure is necessary to paste it to show that, hey, my area got unified? So I leave the question to you to think again. Before you paste, before you insert any table and figure, think about it, whether necessary or not. If you just write like this, the local telecommunication that are available is Unify, Digi, Maxis, and U-Mobile. That's it, lor. Do you think that I still will penalize you? Hey, where is the proof? Unify, Digi, Maxis, U-Mobile, where is the proof? You are not secondary school, primary school already lah. So that's why I will trust you lah. You won't simply write anything, isn't it? So think about it. Before you cut and paste any figure and table, think about it, whether that one necessary or not. Or if you, is it sufficient to put in the writing? So you don't need any more table and figure. So I will feel that majority of you, there are too many figure and table, some of it actually not necessary. Okay, so please take note, do not repeat in your next assignment, especially your integrated project. We don't hope to see that you still got so many table and figure again. Okay, all right. Okay, now I will go through the step by step. Okay, executive summary, basically all of you should be no problem, but I would suggest that some of you still didn't have a table, although I mentioned at the beginning, a table to summarize the key information would be a plus point. So that one for you to take note. Later on, your integrated project, please do not repeat the mistake. A table to summarize the key information will be a good point. And remember, 1 page is sufficient. 1.5 page, I would say, if you have the table, 1.5 pages will be sufficient. Don't write too long. Don't more than 2 pages. Okay? And yeah, step 1, basically, right? One group just now come and argue with me, stated that their land area more than 5 acres is actually reasonable. So I didn't recall whether you got give me any references or not to show the land area is 5 acres. My acceptable range is between 3 to 4 acres. So if you want to argue your land is 5 acres, first you should put all the references in the report so that I know, your land area, because you measure like this and like this, that's why you got 5 acres, then I can accept. Second, if you are not so sure your land 5 acres, you should come and clarify. Just now Derek asked one question. Ask what question? Outline your view means what? So if you don't understand, feel free to clarify, especially your midterm. If you don't understand the wording, right, or if you are doubt, you don't ask your friend. Your friend later bring you to Holland. The best you ask me lah, correct or not? I will clarify. I will make your thing more clear. So generally, my area I accept is between 3 to 4. If you are more than that, I will just give a message to you, stated that your land area is too large. I didn't deduct any marks. Okay. Then second, is about the density control and port ratio, right? It's given in the assignment question, correct or not? Go back to the assignment question. The assignment question already mentioned that the density control is this, port ratio is this. But then in the report, you still want to show the KL planner, the Selangor planner to show that that one is what land, what port ratio, this and that. That's why your step one got many figure. Actually, no need. Actually, you just need to mention after check the government local plan, the port ratio is 1:3. Because that one already mentioned in the assignment ma. So it is unnecessary for you to detail out again to show me this document show that, that document show that, and so on. Not necessary. Okay? And most of you, right, you have a habit to show the calculation. If the calculation is very short, acceptable. But if the calculation very, very long, right, I would suggest you either you put it in a table, either you put it in an appendix to say that this calculation you can refer to appendix 1. Then it will make your report even not so lengthy because appendix didn't count any words, correct or not? So I would say you have to improve your presentation. If you want to show the calculation, can. Okay, you can sum in the table, then you put an appendix, then you tell the client, the car park number, you can refer to appendix 1A. And then the OKU car park, you can OKU, the parking lot, you can refer to appendix 1B. So that will make your report more presentable. Okay. Step 2, shorten the table. It is unnecessary to tabulate all is. This is a table, this one, the time distance relationship, right? Very, very, very long. I think I can get 3 to 5 pages. It is unnecessary to detail out. Actually, right, you just detail out some of the major food and beverage, then that will be sufficient already. No need to detail so many lah. Okay, try to shorten your table, try to shorten your information, because if you have a few already, then it already shows that this area actually have good accessibility and got many public amenity. Okay. Okay, last part, I would think your step 2, lack of one part discussion on the choice of the selecting the proposed development, meaning to say that actually at the end of the step 2, it will be best to give one conclusion after you conducted the step 2, how it leads you to your proposed development by integrate some of the finding from your step 2. No need so long, a little bit will be sufficient. Okay. Demand analysis, I think some of you okay. Just that got one problem lah. Too many figure, and some of the figure may be unnecessary. And I still detect some of the group use very obsolete data. Some I think 2016, the 2016 I think. Okay. And if you have a summary, that will be a pass point. Summary of your step 3. I think I saw a few group, they actually give a summary after they conducted the step 3 to summarize what are the findings from the demand analysis. Okay, that one will be a good point. Supply analysis, mostly quite okay. Just that you all have the habit, one development, one table. That's why step 4 many table. Then the table, you want to paste the picture, I would say not necessary. A single table to tabulate all development will be a good point. Rather than existing supply, you got 10 table, some more the table very long. Some more I cannot see the overview. If you tabulate separately, it's very difficult to see it. So try to make it simplify a bit. If you can tabulate in a table, then that will be a good point lah. And that will be what I say, summary of the existing. You can see it in a clear manner, the similarity, the differences, and then from that, you can compare it with your proposed development. Market equilibrium, as I say, I say 1,000 times this one. I say theoretical explanation is not necessary. but I still see a few group, they actually sketch the demand and supply curve, then talk about the theory, the demand and supply. Not necessary, okay? As I say already, not necessary, but you still want to prove, you still want to give, then I seriously want mati lah. Okay, so try to avoid theoretically explanation in a professional report. Later on, your integrated project, we also don't want any theoretical explanation. For my FYP, I always tell the student, especially FYP 2, cut down your theory, cut down, don't so long guess. So their chapter 3 is actually very short only, not to say very short lah. Actually not much theory, okay? So try to limit your theory, especially for a professional report. Your client just want to know the fact. The theory part is not necessary to explain in the report. Compare the demand and supply analysis in the table will be a plus point to justify how your proposed development is able to cater. This one I will credit to group 24, the highest one. The highest group actually give me this one, which I feel 24 which is I think quite good, is they summarize the comparison between the demand and supply from the previous steps. Then they actually tabulate in a table. After they tabulate it, they actually give a very short discussion, very comprehensive discussion about their finding and justification. Okay, so this table I would think that quite good. Okay, and they also provide this one, comparison between the transactions demand and property supply in Selangor. So this one, I believe they actually, can you see that they actually reproduce themselves in a proper table? So think about it, which presentation is better, cut and paste, or you take some effort to reproduce it in a table? So I believe you can think about it, okay? And okay, step 6, right? Forecast market share is missing. Some of the group forget to include the market share, didn't include the calculation, so please take note. And suggest to have a figure or table to summarize the uniqueness of the proposed development. This one, I only see one group did it only. So that is a group 24. They actually, before they discuss the uniqueness, they actually give a figure, I think it's not figure, give a table to summarize their uniqueness. Then after that, they proceed to the discussion. So that will be a good way, because your client might not have so much time to glance through the report. A figure always spell out the 1,000 words. So feel free to fully utilize the figure and table in a good way. And then some of you, I don't understand, okay? You include sustainability feature and element. You can include, but then some of you talk so many, very long. I think whole uniqueness, you talk about sustainability feature. If you consider sustainability feature, do you consider the costing in your appraisal? So that is my question. Don't just simply write then without considering the appraisal, without considering the costing. You can have one point about your sustainability, no problem. But then please do not make it as a major uniqueness. If you make it as a major uniqueness, then do you consider the costing part in your appraisal? Okay. Come to the step 7 is about the financial modeling. I forget any group missed this one or not, but I will just say again, a table to summarize some of the key information will be a good point. Okay, and majority of you, your preference is to calculate construction cost, land cost, construction cost, interest rate. You paste one figure, so you paste the sources of information in your writing part. I would say that if you want to show where you get the information, feel free to put it in the appendix. Don't put it in the writing part. Okay, the financial modeling, basically, right, it will be better. Don't show your calculation. Don't show your figure table. the sources table, like the Arcadis cost book, you cut and paste, then you say you use this one, so you highlight it. You can have this one, but you put it in appendix, then you tell the client the sources of information refer to appendix 1AB, for example. That will be a better, because financial modeling, basically we want to see the figure, okay, how much is the land cost, some of the key information. So the sources, either you tabulate in a table, put an appendix, just don't put at the writing part. So that will be better lah. Okay. For residential property, right, preferable to spell out the selling price and the number of unit rather than the area. So when you calculate residential property, right, best way to express in your appraisal, in your development budget is just tell how many unit, the selling price, then you get your GDV. Try avoid using area. Area will be more suitable to use in commercial building. For residential, normally we want to know the selling price per unit and how many unit you want to build. That will be a preferable presentation. And if you have a residential property, the agent fee, right, you don't write letting agent, you write sales agent fee. So the agent fee will be based on the selling price, for example. Okay, try to avoid the terms. The letting agent fee will be for mixed use development, commercial building. If you are having mixed use, residential versus commercial, then you should have two agent fee, sales agent and letting agent. That will be better. Okay, so something for you to think about it, to consider. Mixed use development, you have to think about it whether you want to dispose to third party or not. If you decided to dispose to third party, you have to include the disposal cost and also the developer sales fee at the promotion section. Some of you dispose to third party, you have disposal fee. Some of you, right, you choose not to dispose. So you do not have disposal fee, but you have the developer sales fee. So this one, remember, if you choose to dispose to third party, you have to calculate both. If you decided not to dispose, these two please remove from the appraisal. Okay, feel free to make assumption. If you want to dispose, don't want to dispose, is up to you. I give you the freedom. And the letting agent fee I already mentioned lah. Okay. And then some of the group calculation for the funding fee for construction period actually wrong. Okay. This one of the example of the development appraisal, which I feel is very presentable, is group number 1. Okay, it's very presentable. Can you see that they actually detail out the calculation here, the assumption here? So it's very, can you see that? Refer to Appendix A. Refer to where? So in their appraisal, in their chapter, the financial modeling, right, they actually didn't cut and paste so many things. Okay. So the calculation for funding cost, right? This one, some of you already get it wrong. This should use the figure 75 million. But some of you, right, you didn't use this figure, but you use this figure, this one. Okay, you shouldn't use this figure. All these costs you need funding as well. So that's why for the funding cost, you should use this figure. I already brief in the lecture tutorial, also one round. So this mistake try to avoid. Okay, try to avoid in your integrated project, remember. Okay. All right, so that's it for the financial modeling. Okay, risk analysis, I would say that actually got a few group come and ask me the break even. Actually, I try not to talk to you because I want you to think. okay, to think about whether the test suitable or not. So for this round, I think only 1 or 2 group got mistake lah. The rest actually quite okay. So for this residual method, you cannot use break even. Break even is to make your profit become zero. That's why we are interested to know what makes your profit become zero ma. Land cost becomes zero. Do you think feasible or not? How likely your land cost will become zero? Your land cost will always increase, but your profit, there is a tendency will become lesser and lesser. That is a interesting. We want to know the break even. So for residual method, break even is not suitable. Scenario modeling, I would just say also less suitable because how likely the best and the worst scenario can occur. So the best to do the test is sensitivity analysis plus minus 10%, okay, or plus minus 5%. Then after that, from the sensitivity analysis, you know that some of the figures are very sensitive, then you can conduct bivariate and univariate, okay. Certainty equivalent also you can perform, okay, but some of the group I found the Excel is missing, I cannot verify. Okay, so if you do the certainty equivalent, you should include the calculation in your Excel so that easier for me to verify. And last one about the risk analysis, some of you mostly do reporting, but I got see a few group, I think 2 to 3 group, they actually give some advice, give some suggestions how to minimize the risk that come from the main variable. So that part will be quite good to give some suggestions. Okay, last one, conclusion. I think one group missing. So if you're missing the conclusion part, your marks for conclusion will be very low lor. Okay, so all this content, I have actually put it in the assignment. So you actually need to include the conclusion. Okay, all right. Any question on your assignment before I proceed to FA briefing? And I believe group number 24, you should actually go through the integrated project because I saw some of your content is actually come from integrated project group 24. So I believe group 24 already go through integrated project. So that's why their report is very strict to the point. No theoretical explanation, no long guess one. Very strict to the point. Okay, only like the prop ratio, they already mentioned what is that. That's it. So they didn't show any proof lah, cut and paste lah, calculation lah. No. So that's why I give them higher marks. Okay, so if you are interested to know their report, you can ask the group leader for have a look lah. Okay, so that you can see some of the good sample. Okay, but for development appraiser, I would give credit to group number 1 is very presentable and don't know lah. I just feel comfortable to read it. Okay. Okay. If no question, then we will go to the what FA briefing. Okay. All right. So now I have actually just repeat again. Your test 20%, your group's assignment 40%. So your CA is 60%. I have already released your mark 60% at Webler. So you can check your mark. If there is some error or discrepancy, let's say I accidentally add too many marks for you, you want some deduction, you can come and find me. I can deduct for you. Okay, so try to check your marks, whether got any mistake or not. Okay, all marks are deemed to be final after 12 p.m. today. Okay, so try to check, like let's say the group assignment, let's say your group get 32, you only get 22, so you have to come and verify. So you don't later tell me at the end of the day, you only tell me you want to do some changes, it's too late. Better check your marks, especially your test and your group assignment, see the marks, whether your marks similar to your group member or not. Okay, FA 40%. So total up will be 100% for this course. So your lucky day for this subject is final assessment 20 of September, Monday. Okay, time 12 to 5 p.m., 3 hours only. Remember the date. Try to make it. Okay, if you, okay, later, join the MST meeting at 1:45 at lecture channel. So on this day, I will open a MST meeting. All of you please join at 1:45 p.m. Let's say if you have any question or if I want to make any announcement or any clarification, I can use this channel to notify you all. If you don't want to join, you miss out the information, then I cannot do anything because I use my effort to gather you all, but if you all don't want to attend, then I cannot do anything. So try to join at 1:45 p.m. so that I can monitor your attendance. I can know who didn't attend. Okay? And then I will release the question 5 minutes before. Marks for FA will be 0 if you absent without giving any solid reason. So try to make it for your FA. For your main FA, if you have anything happen, you want to go for replacement, I just have one message to you. The replacement FA will be tougher than the main FA. Replacement question always is tougher, difficult than the main FA. So try to take note. You have to attempt to your FA is compulsory, even though I do not know whether some of you got score more than 15% or not. Or let's say if you score 50% or pass already why I still want to go for FA? Don't need lah. If you score more than 50%, you still need to go for FA to complete the course. If you didn't go for it, you still consider fail. Okay? All right. So for your FA, it's an individual time restrict assessment. So you need to submit before 5 p.m. Similarly to your midterm, only 2 questions. All are compulsory questions. You need to answer all questions. Each question carry 20 marks, 20%. So actually quite heavy 40%. So whatever you have known after I brief you about the midterm, you try to remember, try not to repeat in your FA. I believe you can score better in your FA because I believe why you score lower is because you do not know how to answer. Maybe you didn't have experience before. Maybe you do not know the proper way of answering the question. But after I brief you, I believe you know some of the best way to answer your FA. Okay, so I believe you can score better in your FA . So assessment topic cover from day 1 until 13. All topics are very important, okay? Because as I always told you, you need to integrate some of the knowledge from other chapter. If I tell you, macroeconomic important, then you forget the micro, you forget other chapter. Best way, try to read, revise the whole chapter. Some more is open book why so worry? Correct or not? Try to revise for whole chapter, okay? And your answer to this assessment, maximum 2,500 words. So don't challenge me. You want to challenge whether I got count your work, is it? So you can try again. See whether I'll count your work count or not. Okay, maximum 2,500. Exclude cover page, declaration statement, and references. So each question you should answer start from a new page. The answer, the font size and font type, I already set in the answer script. You no need to do anything okay? And if you have any references, you can use Harvard referencing. Okay, bear in mind, you have to use the standard answer script provided. I will upload the answer script at the Weblr. You don't recycle other course one, because other course is different from my course. You can see this one. I already set the course code, set the subject, the date, and also the time, even the marking I already set. So you all have to use the answer script upload to the Weblr. Please do not recycle like you take value management, you take PPP 3.1. Cannot. Please do not do that. Okay, as I say, okay, all the king, all the queen, okay, please fill in your name, your index number in numbers, index number in words. This index number, you can get it from your UTA portal. I think at week 14, you can get it already. Okay, then page 2, your name, your ID, sign please, and fill in all the detail. Please do not so kanjong. If you didn't fill in your name, imagine if 100 of you didn't fill in your name. Kesian saya, I have to check one by one. So please, okay, save my job, fill in all the detail accordingly. Okay. Then page 3, you can start to answer. So this one I already briefed. The pattern is quite similar to the midterm. You don't need to type any question. You just straight away answer. Follow the sequence. Do not rearrange. If you have any references, feel free to list out. Okay. I don't like point form, so please give essay format. Break down your answer in a few paragraphs. Please do not produce your answer in table form. Do not cut and paste any table and figure from the online sources, from the lecture slide. Okay, maximum word count, I remind you again, 2,500, similar to the midterms. Okay, so how should I answer open book question in CA and FA? So as I say, you have to apply knowledge beyond the factual and surface understanding of the content knowledge. So that's why the question I set is quite similar to midterm. Normally is ask your view, ask your opinion. So your opinion, your view, right, does not mean right or wrong. It's only good or bad. If you can justify your view with relevant example and evidence, then actually is okay. The poor answer is you do not know how to justify. There is no view. There is no your view. There is no your opinion. You purely just get your answer from the article. Then that one is actually quite bad. All right. So the marking rubric, as I told you, you can see that we didn't evaluate how many points, how many number of the example, how many number of the point that you need. The first criteria, 20%, so each component 5%. The first criteria is completeness of the answer to check, to see whether you understand the question or not. To see whether you answer all aspects of the question or not. Like let's say the question asks you barrier and benefit. You just write benefit. You forget about the barrier. Or the benefit you write a lot, but barrier you just write one only. So it's not complete. So this one, it shows that maybe the student don't understand barrier, just understand benefit only. So that's why the first criteria is to evaluate the completeness of your answer. Second part is validity of the fact and perspective, meaning to say that your answer should be supported by relevant example and you should have more detailed elaboration to justify your point. That will be 5 marks. Evidence of background knowledge and integration of theory and practice is integration of theory and practice. You have to use some of the news that I provided to justify. Like let's say project finance, JV. So you can give the news of EPF JV with Equal World EPF also JV with who lah. So that is the reason why I always give a lot of news, latest news in the lecture slide, even in the Microsoft team, because I want to help you to get the 5 marks. Some of you quite good, you know how to integrate. You score high marks for this one. Some of you, you didn't provide. So how can I give you this mark? Last one, quality for writing. Meaning to say that I don't wish to see there are a lot of error, grammar error. Of course, I didn't expect your English very good. At least don't have too many typo, because sometimes I know you very kanjong. When you kanjong, a lot of typo. When you have a lot of typo, I have to interpret that one is what. So please do not so kanjong. And then you should present your answer in a clearly, concise, and organized manner. If you receive my comment on your midterm about your answer is not organized, then you have to take note already. Because starting, you talk about share. Then after that, property. Then after that, you jump back to share. Then some more the answer is repeated. So that's why you score very low in your quality for writing, because you didn't present your answer in an organized manner. So try to produce the answer that you can hit all the criteria in these 4 aspects. Okay? So take note, on 20th of September, 2 p.m., I think 1:55 p.m., I will release the questions and the answer script at Babbler and also MS Team together. But the deadline for you to submit 5 p.m. Is only Babbler. Okay, I have actually set the link already. You go to the last one, this one. So in this corner, I will post the question and also the answer script. Submission, you can go through here, this one. Okay, you don't go to other platform, make sure you submit here. Okay, so maximum time given is 3 hours, but I would just recommend you to complete your answer within 2 hours and 30 minutes. Don't have a habit until 3, almost 3, then you want to submit. Then after that, my message start to pop out a lot of message. Miss, Babbler is slow. My computer is slow. I cannot upload on time. Why not at least 10 minutes before you try to upload? Then you can avoid this problem. Okay, my advice to you want to listen, don't want to listen is another story correct or not? Okay, try to submit your answer script as soon as possible. Don't wait until the deadline. Okay. Similarly, only submit your answer in Microsoft Word only. No need PDF because I mark in Microsoft Word. Okay, if you want to sketch any drawing, any table, any figure, first you can actually sketch on a piece of paper, you scan, you upload, or if you can, you try to type if necessary. Please make sure you sketch it either by MS Word or by your own hand. Okay, then you cut and paste the figure in your answer script. Please avoid the habit, cut and paste the figure, table, and the graph from the lecture slide and also from the Google. Try to avoid. And some more, I already told you, table, no marks. Don't waste your effort. And remember, submit your answer to Babbler only. Okay, check your index number. By week 14, you should be able to get your index number. Keep your index number. Don't share with your friend. Don't let your friend know your index number. This is private and confidential. Okay, for the file name, right? The file name a bit long. Course code FA program index number. So UEBQ 4553 FAQS, your index number. I will rename the answer script up to here. You see, I'm so good. I help you to rename accordingly. I will rename it. This one I rename in the answer script. You just need to insert your index number at the back and then submit. So please make sure don't key in your name, don't key in your ID in the file name. Your file name only require index number. Okay? So this one I already mentioned. The submission link already set at Babbler. So you can click to submit. So I think this one should be, you all should be very familiar already I still receive some of the question. Can you resubmit? Yes, you can resubmit many times as long as before 5 p.m. Let's say if you submit at 4 p.m., you realize that you want to make something, you can resubmit because still before 5 p.m. After 5 p.m., you cannot resubmit already. Make sure you submit the correct file. Okay, because the course, right, because you have a lot of course like VM lah, PPP, the course code looks similar. That's why double check before you submit. Make sure that answer script is property development. Then only you submit. Because I have an experience, when I open the file, I see value management. I see PPP3. What happened if you submit wrong file? You get 0, you know. You get 0 if you submitted the wrong file. Because we are asking property development. So please check before you submit the correct file. Save your file properly. I have a few cases before the student didn't save the file. End up everything corrupted. Okay. He or she have to redo. Okay, within the limited time. So this one, I'm very scared already. You try to save your file properly before you submit. You can back up lah. I think you can back up at Drive lah or email lah. Okay, just back up a copy lah. Okay. So in case, let's say the Webeler is down on the submission day, you can email your answer to this email address. Okay. So the email title, you should use your file name lah. However, you just need to remember the submission platform is Webeler. Do not submit your answer to both platforms. Last time, the midterm got 2 or 3 students submit to Webeler. At the same time, submit to the email. Please do not do that. Okay, only to Webeler. Do not submit to both platforms. Do not email to me, to my personal email. Do not submit your answer through Microsoft Teams to me. Okay, everything goes to the Webeler, the official platform. Okay, or if you have any problem in the submission, you can text me faster, message me in the Microsoft Teams if you have any problem. Okay, so remember, submission should be before the deadline, not after the deadline. So that's why I already say 1,000 times, you should plan your submission time to avoid last minute, because no extension will be given. Even your file corrupted, even if you didn't save your file properly, the submission time still 5 p.m. Sorry to say that. So that's why you take the responsibility to make sure your file is okay, you're all right. Okay? So make sure you submit the correct, complete, final version of your answer script. Incomplete part by part will not be accepted. You don't like 5 p.m. already, you submit already. You tell me, Miss, I forget the question 2, I didn't submit. We won't accept already. After 5 p.m., no matter you only have 1 question or your question 2 incomplete, we will not accept. So that's why incomplete submission will not be accepted. You don't say that later on you want to submit again. No. Okay? If multiple answer scripts are received between the due date, the latest copy will be chosen. So let's say 4 p.m., you submit 1 copy. 4:30, you submit 1 copy again. The 4:30 will be taken. 4 p.m. will not be taken, will not be chosen for marking. Answer script after the due date and time will not be marked. So please take note. Okay? Okay. Again, want to remind you, plagiarism is a serious offense. So if I found out your answer script similar to other student, or if I found out your answer abnormal, then I will upload to Turnitin for checking. So if the percentage is very high, then the evidence will submitted to the examination disciplinary committee. So they will take the action. It's not, I won't take any action. Okay, they will take the action based on the evidence given. All right. So just to take note, the important message from the examination disciplinary committee, try not to make, please don't make any serious offense in copying or in cheating, because later on you will suspend. So please do not do that. Okay? I think if I'm not mistaken, right, I think they are following the FYP, FYP benchmark. If I think it's following FYP benchmark. Okay. Must I work on the CA or FA on my own? Can I seek help from the others? So remember, this is your individual effort. You cannot pakat with your friend. Okay? No pakat no pakat like I do question 1, you do question 2 lah. No, no, no But as I say, if you don't understand any wording, right? If you have any doubt, feel free to consult. That's why at the beginning I ask you all gather at MS Team, so that anyone got question, we clarify, then all students can benefit from the question. Okay? And then remember, after end of the assessment, right? Do not share your answer to your friend. Don't share, don't share your answer to your friend. Try to keep it, because we do not know whether there is any risk or not being copied by the others. Okay? Can I refer to internet, textbook, course note? Yes, you can refer, but then please do not copy. Basically, right, the question come out from the final. You unable to get the answer from the lecture slide, because it require you to give your opinion. So definitely you won't be able to copy. If you are able to copy from lecture slide or from books, right, then that one got problem already. You can see like the question, the midterm question 1, you cannot copy one. All these require your critical thinking, your opinion. You are unable to copy. Okay, so try not to copy. As I say, do not over rely on the article given. Okay. Can I use the search engine like Google? You can use. Because 3 hours, you can actually do some searching, no problem. You can get some article to read, get the idea to support your point. Don't copy, you can get the idea, don't copy. Okay, but if you want to cite, make sure you cite them properly. Because some of the students I detected, they got the answer from the article, but then they didn't cite it. So that one is even worse, because you didn't cite it properly. Okay, what are the cheating cases during the FA? Here for you to read. I will upload this slide. Please go through what are the things that consider cheating case. And then what are the example of plagiarism? Incorporating, whether to copying, cutting, pasting, or very close from one or more sources which are belong to the others. So this one is you copy without acknowledgement, as I mentioned just now. In other words, in other way, inappropriate phrasing, which include you only change a few words, a few sentences only, but mostly retain the original structure and the progressive idea. That is also plagiarism. That's why you score low mark, because you rely heavily on the article. So that's why take the not to say take the risk, avoid this one. You can get the idea, but then best way, use your own words, use your own sentences. Do not copy, because even if you change a few words, a few sentences, right, you can see this one also consider plagiarism. Okay, so for number 3, number 4, and the rest, right, please read it. What are the example consider plagiarism? Okay, so final reminder, since today is the last class, I want to remind you again, I will see you all again on 20th of September from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. is your final assessment. So everyone try to make it on time. Postpone all the important appointment. Okay? During the assessment period, if you have any question, contact me at Microsoft Teams as soon as possible. And remember, after the FA, after 5 p.m., right, I will check your file. I will open one by one to see whether corrupted or not, to see whether can open or not, to see whether you got submit wrong file or not, submit VM to me. So within 2 hours, I will call you to see whether you got pick up or not. So if you didn't pick up, I cannot help you already. So please make sure your phone, your MS Team, you are alert with your MS Team after 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. Okay, try to alert. If I call you, if I message you, please answer. Okay, so that's it for the final assessment. Do you have any question? Any question before I end the class today?